So if you've kept up with my Twitch streams on Mondays and Fridays on twitch.tv/Keepot, you'd see that I've been playing the entire Tomb Raider and Uncharted series. Two series. Either way, two series I've loved dearly, at least in concept. One of my first games ever was Uncharted 3. When I was a child, I asked a GameStop employee for upcoming Naughty Dog games, and the GameStop guy let me and my pappy know that there was a fourth game in the works. After telling me that I was probably annoying the GameStop employee, Papa Key told me, "You know, boy, this is the first time I've ever been proud of you. Good job." This had no lasting effects on my psyche whatsoever. As of, I think, late August, yes, this video is super late, I've officially finished them, more or less. I barely played the first Tomb Raider games just because I can't really get into the tank controls. I'm too young, and I'm sorry, so I'm finally gonna compare the two series and see which one is cooler, better? I'm not sure why I wanted to do this comparison in the first place, but after playing both of them, I realized you're not going to get a clear, better experience since they provide a different spirit altogether. One is a more swashbuckling pirate fantasy, and the other is a survival epic. Which means after I give both a score, I'd be lying if I'm saying there's one adventure guy game that's objectively better than the others. But let's jump in. How exactly am I even going to compare the two? Uncharted has 5 games versus the reboot to Tomb Raider's 2 trilogies? Easy. I'm counting the first 3 Tomb Raiders as a single game, and I'll be comparing it to Uncharted 1. Then, Uncharted 2 through 4 will be considered its own trilogy, going up against the Tomb Raider reboots. I'm not sure if that's completely fair, but the 3 metrics I'm using to compare these is gameplay, the characters themselves, and the story around them. Good. And if you don't want my analysis and just want my personal ranking, it looks like this. So unlike the Tomb Raider reboot that'll be developed by Nixxes Software and Crystal Dynamics, the original 6 were developed by Core Design and definitely play completely different. My young ass struggles to play tank controls at all, so I ended up giving up and watching the first 3 games like movies after playing a bit at the beginning of them. One consistent structure to the game's stories between all the series, whether it's Tomb Raider, the reboot, or Uncharted, is that the protagonist makes a big discovery, racing against another interested party, only to realize that whatever the thing they were hunting was most likely meant to be hidden, before re-hiding it or destroying it before the next adventure. I think that Indiana Jones also follows this trend. I don't know why. Let's start with the OG, the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. I can totally see why people got attached to this series. The games are kinda nuts, and watching Lara ask her situations, even though some fans straight up deny it for some reason, she's a straight up superhero. In and out of cutscenes, watching her do 30 kickflips into an alligator's den, then drop a sick, nasty one-liner makes me feel so hype. I actually really like her way more than low-key, I don't fuck with this version. This is not my Drake. This version is kind of an asshole. While it's understandable that he doesn't tell Elena that pirates may follow them to the coffin, her interest in the tomb is purely journalistic. So why doesn't he let her see the notes? Well, her program could leak secrets about the treasure. Not really. I doubt that her program has an editor if they can't hire a camera guy for their find of the generation. Plus, editing the 3+ years of video trying to find Drake in the first place would take forever. But including the adventure itself? No chance. The El Dorado documentary would have been released long after Drake completed his whole thing. Drake steals her boat for no reason, and there's not even a defense for this. Because if Sully can get his hands on a seaplane, he definitely could have gotten his hands on a fishing boat. And he's like, I gotta protect Elena. Where'd this come from? Because the type of guy who would scam a woman for no reason would not have any regard for what happens to her when he says, I gotta go, I'm scared, and she goes, I'm gonna keep going. I don't know, I feel like this drink is very inconsistent. Hey sis, can I borrow a boat?
What do you need a boat for?
I want to find a coffin.
A coffin?
Yeah, that guy who died at sea, I'm gonna pull up his coffin.
Wouldn't that be dangerous and disrespectful?
Yeah, but I think it'll get treasure.
Alright, fine. I'll call my company and I'll order a boat for us.
I found the coffin. It's empty. Bye.
What about my boat?
It's mine now.
What? Where's my boat?
I blew it up. Pirates.
Pirates?
Yeah, they want the treasure I'm gonna find from it. Please don't follow me.
You can't just leave me behind. What about the contract?
Nathan Drake isn't my real name. It's not legally binding.
You know what? Either way, I'm coming. I'm recording everything.
No, you're not.
You know what? I don't get paid enough for this.
You're fucking fired.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
That being said, I'm not sure if I'd recommend the OG Tomb Raider either. It may be a skill issue on my part, but the controls are still a clunky uphill battle for me, even with its legacy status. While Uncharted hasn't reached the pinnacle of movie game, it definitely has a better feel than the critically acclaimed games that came out that year. Ultimately, you should take my opinions for this game with a grain of salt, because I didn't spend more than 4 hours in the entire OG Tomb Raider series. But they both deserve props for setting down a path for future games and gamers. But now that we've finished the prequels, now it's time for the real meat of the game. Luckily, just like the set we covered earlier, both of these games have relatively equal quality because I can start making actual comparisons. The Uncharted series starts making a real stride, and the Tomb Raider reboot puts its best foot forward. This is the beginning of the actual things that I wanted to compare, because Uncharted 2 Drake is my Drake. I became more familiar with the reboot Lara than her predecessor, and while these games are both treasure hunter type games, they scratch different itches in my brain. Uncharted is a swashbuckling, a high-octane adventure, and you really get to run around fun dynamic areas and have a sneak peek into the vibe of the games that happen later on. You want out of bullets? Pick up any of the guns that have fallen from any of the clubs that think they were a match for you. Want to sneak around? Sure dude, this is your playground. You want an engaging puzzle? We got those in spades. And speaking of puzzles, I prefer the Tomb Raider reboot's puzzles. The modern counterpart sets itself apart with puzzles that, instead of knowledge checking you like Uncharted, has you using your arsenal to break an already crumbling ruin. I feel so creative when running around this place. Another way it sets itself apart from Uncharted is a tense atmosphere. This new Lara could die at any moment. She's scared and alone. She knows that she's the only one capable of what she's doing. And each explosion has impact. Each bullet can kill you. You're a hunter, and you have to steel your resolve to get home by any means necessary. Take a breath and traverse the unstable ruins, pick off enemies one by one, and uncover the truth about the island that you're trapped on. I believe the revised trilogy, the One True Drake trilogy, goes Among Thieves, Drake's Deception, and A Thief's End. This Drake is prideful and cocky, but cares deeply for his friends. He even has a real character, getting over his jealousy, and even with the context missing, his relationship with Elena is way cuter, and Sully feels more like an older mentor than a business partner. Mirroring how Lara has a close relationship with her shipmates, I'm absolutely killing these transitions. I like how everyone on the ship feels like their family who look out for each other without having much time with each of the members. You feel like this crew is a close-knit group, and the situation is driving a wedge between them, instead of a bunch of strangers on a mission. It's not a surprise, but my springs were definitely reacting, and Tomb Raider definitely beats Uncharted 2's gameplay. It's a really fun open world with a plethora of side missions, puzzles, and a great atmosphere, and the game controls really well. While there's not much enemy variety, the game still manages to feel like a desperate fight for survival, and scavenging and field crafting adds to the feeling that each of the weapons have a different purpose. You can always try to use one weapon if you want a challenge, or happen to be, I don't know, the pistol master, or like a masochist, but regardless, it's very satisfying gameplay. Just because Uncharted is never tense, it still brings something to the table. Its grandiose atmosphere pairs well with its run and gun gameplay. It makes you feel like a badass. Out of ammo? Grab another gun. Don't want to? Okay, play punchies with them until they go limp. Want to sneak up on them? Sure, you can do anything. You're Nathan Drake. Set up your movie scene. But even though I love both of these, I have to declare a winner. And I think that Tomb Raider absolutely brings it in this game. They're even in both story and gameplay, and hit their marks for the atmosphere they're going for. But Tomb Raider beats it by a hair with the amount of things there is to do. Uncharted has tiny treasures scattered around, but Tomb Raider has random challenges and challenge tombs that you can always backtrack to throughout the game, during their first game. Uncharted is bombastic, and there's little reason to switch up your tactics. It does have better action set pieces though. This is going to be the hardest one to judge. Rise of the Tomb Raider versus Drake's Deception. When it comes to gameplay, these two hit their marks perfectly. From a gameplay perspective, they may be the peak of their respective series. There's an argument to make for A Thief's End, but those two definitely have a similar quality to them. Solid gameplay and story and character moments, and for Uncharted 3, I think this is the peak of its combat. The 3D environments meshing into a perfect synergy with each other perfectly. A complaint that I had about the other games in the series is that the melee is kind of meh, but the melee is kind of meh. The melee either felt like you're a trained actor doing stage punches while your co-stars take a dive, or Drake decided to fight with stalker bobbers on. But this game is different, giving hand-to-hand combat its own little set mechanic. Not to mention its most awesome mechanic. This is the peak of modern swashbuckler energy. Like, damn. Mwah. As for Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara, I think it's the perfect tone shift from completely scared to confident in her abilities, but still a hunter at heart. Everything can still kill you, and you have a bigger arsenal, and that gives you more strategic options. And the side missions fix my complaint of the tombs not rebooting the player, with bigger tombs giving abilities and the smaller catacombs giving weapon parts, not to mention the level design. I felt compelled to at least interact with even the smallest side missions once. This is a huge improvement. Between Uncharted 2 and 3, Nate has tangible growth, still keeping his unserious nature with new hangups like putting his pride as an adventurer on the line. And while I complain about his recklessness in the first game, it reframes it as tunnel vision, character flaw, making him continue even while his friends are in danger. Something I really enjoy is the friend who gets hurt being like, oh yeah, no, we can do this. His biggest enabler. And he eventually grows into like a legend. But Croft isn't really a slouch in the growth department either. How do you keep the vibe that everything could kill you to a seasoned protagonist? Well, you turn it into a thrill instead, making her more prepared. She jumps in head first, knowing it's dangerous, but she does it for the love of the game, and I love her confidence. She shows that Laura isn't a scared pup. She's at a chrysalis stage, ready to come out stronger and accept her title. Her title is the Tomb Raider, and what that means to her. And it's pure cinema. Absolute peak. And while both of these stories are perfect for where the characters are heading, Nate getting out of the treasure hunter game with a bang before settling down and leading into a somewhat life, and Laura's path to embracing her new life in undiscovered places. Between the two, I'd say, I don't know, there's a tie. I could kind of replay both these series to the end of time, so it's hard to choose. I'm gonna put them on the same level, actually. And these are the games where we see what all their adventures cultivated in: Shadow the Tomb Raider and A Thief's End. I feel like there's a huge divergent point in my thoughts because I feel like A Thief's End is pure cinema, and I'm left wondering what happened with Shadow the Tomb Raider since they're both finales. I'll try my best to talk about them at length though, since this is the end of their stories. I'll rip it off fast like a band-aid. Shadow the Tomb Raider, look, I'll rip it off fast like a band-aid. Shadow of the Tomb Raider lore feels too unfamiliar. Instead of a danger-loving fanatic, the game leaned more into a seasoned veteran, and it plays against the game's strengths. Killing enemies is fun, but I don't feel like a hunter, especially because Lara's arc is pushing these feelings away, to become more conscientious of those around her, to ascend closer to godhood, to something that in the previous games, she wouldn't have wanted at all. Maybe wanting to follow Uncharted's theme of ending off, moving on, without giving an actual, now I know what I'm doing. But how 2 and 3 felt more like Kintaro learning a skill and moving on, going on to the next, she kinda gets bored and stops. And the series ends off with a whimper instead of a bang. Maybe a gentler slope into her finishing off instead of a 180 would have helped the story. On the other hand, A Thief's End is a victory lap in its series, catching up with the retired adventurer for one last dance, where he can give a proper goodbye to the world he no longer belongs to, in a way that says goodbye to the fans. To say goodbye to the life as a pirate, putting tinsel in the bow that Uncharted's 3 ending gave. I will say to Tomb Raider's credit, the gameplay is really fun. With a shift in atmosphere, stealth is less reliable, but the enemies themselves let you have the seasoned veteran that lets you toy with its victims, where you have to slowly eliminate your enemies. Instead of using guerrilla tactics, you're more like a Batman, leaving traps, shooting enemies, and instilling fear in victims while you pick them off one by one. I miss the DNA of the high-stakes cat and mouse games that you used to play in the previous Tomb Raider games, and the optional challenge tombs went back on being actually rewarding. I do love the challenge for what it is, but gold or jade doesn't feel as good as getting a new bow or cool armor. Getting rid of Uncharted 3's grenade throwing mechanic was disappointing, but most other parts of the game expanded on enemy positions, giving the player more unique scenarios to flourish from, climbing in and out of the elevator, to a high-octane car chase, through a bustling city. This game is more about variety, which is why it's a good trade-off to tone down and simplify its mechanics. Like Melee giving a polished experience. I read that line wrong, but I'm not going to re-record it. Uncharted 3 has a bigger playground than any of the other games, with more involved traversal and the most beautiful environments I've seen in the series this far. I would say that the puzzles are kind of lacking, but I think that might be intentional since some are broken and you have to find different ways to do what you need to do to get done. Which, once again, mirrors that this is a world that Nathan Drake no longer belongs to. After laying everything out, I think Uncharted has a better overall experience. Both are still special to me, and when they're carving out their own identities, that's when they shine the brightest. Ultimately, I like Uncharted series more, but that's also just because I'm a silly little guy. Tomb Raider's tense atmosphere has a closer match when I'm feeling dark and mysterious, but they're both valuable, and it might be cheap to say that, but that's how I feel. My next vid might take even longer, because I'm going to be brewing up a different project, probably having something to do with the music of Persona, so stay tuned for that, and let me know if this video was better than the last one. Adios, amigo!